Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Tetracast. This is RPG Site's weekly podcast where we get the site staff together to talk about our favorite genre of video games. I'm your host. My name is Brian Vitale. I've got the usual crew here with me today. Joining me, I have Josh Torres.
I hope everyone had a lovely Golden Week and or Cinco de Mayo, or just a great week in general.
We have Adam Vitale.
Hello.
James Galizio.
Finally, the hopefully short podcast.
And Chow Min Woo. And as you heard him speak, there's Chow Min Woo.
I was like, I'm gonna make sure it's like 5 hours, guys, at least.
It's game of the year, guys.
All right, so
all day.
Oh, so what do you think Chow's talking about, dear listeners? It is the week before Zelda officially. I'll leave it at that. And we kind of earmarked this podcast previously as a space to talk about a game that came out a couple weeks ago, and that is Honkai Star Rail. I'm not going to preamble any more than that. So this game we could have talked about last week, but Chow wasn't here, and we wanted him to be here because this is near and dear to him, apparently. And also, as Josh alluded to, it has been Golden Week. Or did Josh state that? I forget.
Yes,
one of you stated that. It was Josh or James. So actually, on the news front, like publishers, at least out of Japan, there's not been a lot of news, a lot of headlines this week. We did get a few from a few Western publishers and a few indie studios. But looking at the lineup here, it is quite limited. So this might actually be, like James stated, the short podcast. But that just gives us more time and more opportunity to talk about the game that we kind of punted on last week, and that is Honkai Star Rail. So I do know that Chow has been putting a lot of time into this game, and James and Josh have also put significant amounts of time into this game. I know Chow has played a lot of Genshin Impact. Josh has played a little bit. I don't think James has played any. So we have a few different perspectives on going into this new Hoyoverse project with Honkai Star Rail, experience with the publisher and the developer, experience with gacha games in general. I'm going to start out with Chow because he has kind of, he kicked it off before we even introduced the topic, Honkai Star Rail. I'm just going to leave it to however you want to introduce this.
I was so excited to talk about this game. It's like,
oh, damn it.
It's like, oh, God. All right, Chow, wherever you want to start.
No pressure.
I finally got my trail sequel that I always wanted. That's actually good, not like trash tier CS4.
Okay. So let's kind of like introduce the game of like what is Honkai Star Rail. Obviously, this is from the developers of Genshin Impact, MiHoYo, who have branded themselves as Hoyoverse in the West. Unlike their previous games of Honkai Impact 3rd and Genshin Impact, both were like action-focused action RPGs. This one is turn-based. Yes, and the turn-based system in this game is very reminiscent of what you would find in a Trails game. It's like the systems that are at play there. So let's get into it. The first big major difference from like Genshin Impact or Honkai Impact 3rd is the turn-based battle system. And to be clear, because of the namesake, Honkai Star Rail is not directly linked to Honkai Impact 3rd. You don't need to have played that game to like understand this game. Even though they share the Honkai moniker, there may be like some recurring characters in it, but they're not like, you don't need to have like played or understood Impact 3rd to like understand Star Rail. From what I understand, so
yeah. I have not played Honkai Impact 3rd, but I do know some spoilers on it. And people say that that experience from Honkai is actually commonly found in the Star Rail, so at least that's what I heard.
Okay, so let's get into it. What make you say this is the Trails sequel that you've always wanted?
Okay, so at least in character building, I know people like saying a lot of the game is very simple. You only got two skills to use. I know people memed on that. There's even like a self-aware character that even memed on it. They'll be like, was it you beat this guy and this guy's like, wow, you're so strong. And you could reply, it's like, I only have two skills. Or you could say, I have gotcha and became stronger than ever. And if you choose like the other option, he's like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, and so like your basic attack options, like for any given character, like you engage a combat encounter in the game. It's like your row of 4 characters versus however many characters, and just like another turn-based game, it's all defined by a turn order depending on like the characters and enemy speed stats. So like you're kind of all intermixed, and then you'll be a lot can change depending on the character's speed stat and all that stuff. But in terms of like options, you have your obviously any character can do a basic attack. Each character can do a skill that costs a skill point. That's like a universal pool that you can pull from in the middle of battle. You can store up to 5 skill points, and each skill that takes out consumes 1 skill point, but you can regain a skill point back by a character doing a basic attack, and then another skill that a character uses their ultimate. So basically, the options that characters have in Honkai Star Rail are their basic attack, their unique skill. This could be an attack, this could be a buff, debuff, whatever. It's very character specific, and their ultimate, and that's basically their only options. But there's actually interesting tactical depth to it because of these restrictions.
Yeah, because the thing that I want to kind of bring up is that even though you only ever have like 2, maybe 3 options in combat for each of your characters, a lot of the game's depth comes in terms of preparing your party ahead of time. Because like all of these characters have their own sort of like traits that apply to things. Like for example, if you get Herda, if you deal a certain amount of damage, she can follow up and do a follow-up attack to like pretty much the entire like roster of enemies you're facing. Or with March 7th, which it's funny, there's actually an explanation for why her name is March 7th.
Yeah, it's really goofy. But yes, there's a character named March 7th. We might have mentioned it when she was like revealed, but yes, there's a character that's just named a date in the game.
And there's actually like a decent explanation for it too. I was surprised.
I think it's a good explanation.
But anyways, like she like her skill point ability is to put a shield on people, and she has a passive where anytime someone with a shield gets hit, she'll do a follow-up attack. Well, she'll do like basically a
counter attack when someone's HP is higher than 30%.
So yes, you have this interesting dichotomies of when you think about turn economy and turn-based games, like how do you get the most turns? How do you get your turn back as much as possible? And that's kind of like sort of like a core philosophy of these characters and the way that the turn-based mentality goes to this game. It's like on its surface, it's like yes, you only have a limited amount of actions, but because of the way that characters synergize with their tool set with other characters, there's actually like interesting ways to build a team where you can like kind of take your turn back in sneaky ways like that, where like say like a counter attack, or let's say there's follow-up attacks, so like you could keep like a steady offense by like creating a good defense because of that push and pull economy.
Like I think people,
or you can roll seal and just bum rush through the entire beginning of the game because
is that a character?
Yeah, she is the feature limited character right now. And
what was the name?
Seele?
Yes, Seele. And you know, just mentioning up front because we were talking about a MiHoYo Hoyo verse game. Yes, there's a gacha system in this game. Yes, there are characters that you can roll for. Yes, there are characters that are, you know, slightly more special with the highest rarity that are usually, you know, some of them are way more powerful. Because
I'll just straight up say it. Like, there's only 2 healer type like units in the game right now, and the 5-star one, which I believe you can just get a free copy of Natasha, right?
I
don't think she's a healer, but she's nowhere near as good as Bailu, is it?
Yes.
There are some people that are debating that Natasha might be better in certain situations because Bailu cannot clear debuffs on herself. She can resurrect people, and you can use stall tactics and fight bosses that can kill you and just res and, you know, just keep stalling the fight.
It's situational, but in terms of like burst healing output and like consistent healing, Bailu's there, but there are uses for Natasha as well. So there is a case to be made, but it's situational for both. So like there might be some encounters that might be more debuff focused that Natasha is better. So it's not always a universal answer, but yes, there are definitely characters, and you can see like you've seen it like, you know, in other previous MiHoYo games where inevitably there will be characters they introduce that might be like maybe better than like previous characters, like which is the term called power creeping, you know, in these terms of games where like future content are like future characters, future toolkits of those characters might be flat out better than like characters that were there at launch or much older. You know, you've seen in other gacha games, like, you know, it's just kind of the nature of
That's
that
why
thing.
you get Bronya. Bronya is a buffer, and I don't think I don't think buffers get power creeped as easily as a DPS.
Well,
when you're
Chow,
rolling.
how do you get Bronya?
Oh yeah, how do you get Bronya Chow without spending money?
Just keep re-rolling until you get it. I wrote a re-roll guide for a reason.
In the game's defense, Bronya is not a limited character. She will always be on like the standard banner. So, assuming you keep playing this game, statistically, you will eventually get her. Eventually.
Yeah,
like-
it'll take a lot of months, depending on like
It'll take a lot of time, yeah, for sure.
But,
But,
yeah,
like I'm just
without-
saying, like in general, I think getting a buffer is probably better than getting a DPS in most gacha games because you don't have to worry about power grip as much.
Like, as to be just transparent as possible, like, for some people, like, the enjoyment of this game may be increased if you get better characters than like just sticking with like kind of the characters that like you just by default get, like just in the nature of being a gacha game that you can roll for characters in, that like getting the hot new cool characters or the better higher rarity characters, may very well increase your enjoyment of the game because you get that more expanded options for team oppositions. You get more expanded options for just like in general in combat in terms of like hitting weaknesses and and all that sort of stuff.
One
So-
thing I will say is I would actually not recommend people being fully free to play if they actually want to play this game. I think at a minimum you should get the battle pass because it gives you enough resources to help leveling up your units and like your like equipment be so much easier to deal with, especially in the early game. And it also, yeah.
I was gonna say Genshin pulled the same thing. If you didn't get the battle pass, it is literally hell trying to grind the materials and anything that you need. Because resources are very limited in this game, and you'll not find that out until like once you get past the first world, and it's like, oh, everything just suddenly gained 10 levels higher, and now I need to upgrade. But they only give me enough energy to do 2 battles each day. It's like what do I do? That's
how does the battle pass work? Because I know every game has a slightly different implementation of it.
There's daily missions, weekly missions, and then like entire like session wide. So like the duration of the entire battle pass missions that you can do, and those obviously give you a bunch of XP. It's a standard battle pass. There's nothing really to like.
But is there like a free version and then a tiered version that you pay into?
Yeah, I think the tiered versions it's either $5 or $10. That's why I say if you're actually serious about playing this game, I'd say at a minimum I'd recommend getting that because it's at least a one-time purchase you don't have to worry about besides that.
Well, I mean, it's a one-time purchase for this battle pass duration.
Yeah.
Basically, there's 2 type of passes. There's one pass where you log in and you get extra gems. I would highly recommend that pass over the battle pass if you want to get characters. Because 2007
that one's sneaky too, and you should probably mention that the way that one works is that you only it lasts for 30 days, but you only get the resources if you log in every single day.
Yes, that's correct. Because it shares the exact same thing as Genshin, so it's basically.
I mean, think about it like this: we're already going into like the monetization of this game, right? And how deep of a rabbit hole and an abyss it can be, right?
Yes.
Of like we're already putting like, yes, it's free to play, but now we're already putting like asterisk qualifiers of like, well, if you really want to really take it seriously, you can't really like. I think that's a weird message to send across because yes, technically you can play it for free, like if you have enough persistence, if you're willing to like keep up with it and be like, or it's just one of those things like the more time you put into it, the more you'll get out of it in terms of like if you're just being like consistent with it, and you'll get more out of it. Obviously, if you pay more or less like into like certain tiers of like how much you want to pay into it, like with any free to play game, really, like that has this core structure of like.
I'm just saying that if people are actually like interested in playing this game, they want to treat it as an actual video game and not a chore. That's why I would recommend getting the battle pass stuff, which is weird to say because usually like battle passes themselves are inherently a chore, but it makes it less of a chore if you go with it because it's like, well, at least you're only really worrying about this.
Is there an in-game earnable currency that you can spend on the pass, or is it pay currency only?
It's pay. You don't even get pay currency for it. You just pay outright, but you do get Stellar Jade and you get gacha pulls from doing it. So I believe if you buy the pass, you actually fully level it up, you get about the equivalent of if you had spent that same money on gacha pulls. So yeah.
Okay, well, so I guess that we'll probably mention it again and again throughout this whole discussion. But I guess, what do you think about like the structure of it so far, Chow, in terms of like what you've you know from
played.
Genshin? Because from what you've played from Genshin, because obviously
It-
Genshin is an open world RPG. The only time you really phase in like into other things into Genshin from what I played was like when you went indoors. But then that when you're like traveling to like towns, there was like no separate like loading screen to like load into town. You enter the town and you're there.
I think the whole idea is this is more like a self-contained structure because it's more condensed. So there's like a lot more smaller maps. So but now there's like more denser content, and I think because it's not having open world now, you can interact with all these different objects that that wasn't possible in Genshin, right?
Mhm.
It's just I don't know. It's a lot better in general because I feel like the biggest issue with Genshin is how boring the twins are. The twins are like some of the most boring self-insert that you can.
When you say twins, you mean the two main characters, the brother and sister?
Yes. They are they're really boring because they don't have really good options in dialogue options, and even if you do pick them, it's like they don't even get to say it. Paimon, the kind of like the mascot character, will do all the talking for the main character, and sometimes Paimon treats you like an idiot because she's an idiot. So it'll be like, "Oh, Paimon doesn't get that. I don't know what to do," and it's just really annoying. And later on, it just gets really painful. And now it got to a point that where people even wanted to skip the dialogue options. But at least you don't see this problem in Honkai because the main character is actually sassy. Like you have like these awesome options. Like you see like these people are being harassed, and then it's like, oh, the main character even has options. Like, I'll just
Okay,
let the harassment go by.
They
this is going
remind
to
me
betray
of-
my 1 second. Sorry, this is going to
Okay.
betray my ignorance because of Genshin. I've seen like the screen caps that I know in Genshin you do make dialogue choices, but does the main character actually speak outside of those?
Yes.
Okay.
So it depends, right? Like, yes, the main character speaks, but it's more like they only speak to themselves during like monologues, and then you're responding to like someone. They don't speak their response out loud. You don't hear their dialogue, but when they're like monologuing to themselves, you do hear their voice at times. Like you hear like their inner voice.
And is Honkai set up the same way, or is it slightly different?
Well, Honkai. I'm talking about Honkai. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
talking about Honkai with that. And then in Genshin, I don't think there was any main character voice, if I remember correctly. I think there is for like Battlegrounds. I don't know if there was like any voice dialogue from Genshin that I remembered. Chow, you played Genshin a whole lot more than I did.
They added some voice dialogue, but only like 2 lines of like of like the whole entire Sumeru arc. It'll be like,
But Honkai it seems more frequent than that for sure.
So in both games, the character's kind of a self avatar, but a little bit more of a character in Honkai.
yeah, she has,
It feels like there's actually like kind of like a build up to like getting your main character. Like when you start the game, you don't have your main character yet. You're playing these two like mysterious characters. You don't really know them. They're infiltrating like this ship. You don't know what's really going on, and they kind of like awaken the main character because they're like infusing like this mysterious material called Stellaron, and like they put it into a vessel, and that vessel is your main character. And you don't really know exactly what that implies yet, what like the main story reason for that is, but they're like kind of building it up, and then like the whole after like the finale, the prologue for instance, like kind of clues you in that like there's more to this main character than it lets on. Like they get struck by something, like a pretty powerful blow from an enemy that hits like where their quote unquote heart would be, but the Stellaron is there instead, and like that kind of starts to awaken some memories that they forgot in the long distant past. So and then that's kind of the main thrust of the main character. It's like, okay, well, who am I? Essentially,
That's the initial hook narratively.
Yeah, for your main character at least, and
Mhm.
and then from then on, like like when we talk about like new regions in Genshin, like they have the initial 2 regions, and then they put Sumeru region, and then like in future updates they'll have more regions to explore. In Honkai Star Rail, like the equivalent to those is like planets. So like in chapter 1, you go visit like this ice planet, and it's kind of like a Frostpunk situation where like there's this city that's like on this planet. It's kind of the last bastion of humanity that's like stuck like in an eternal freeze, like this blizzard going on. So like you go into that capital, and you're trying to find like you're trying to find the same material there that's inside your main character called Stellaron. And there's this Stellaron on this planet. It's called the whole cause of this like environmental catastrophe on this planet. So you go to investigate, like, okay, where's the Stellaron? Why is it doing this? What's going on here? And then there's this whole conspiracy in the capital that that will ultimately lead you to the cause of the Stellaron. Where's the Stellaron? What's the cause of all this? How do I stop it? And like within the inner workings of that, you learn about more of the society in that last bastion of humanity. There's like obviously class struggles there. There's this whole hierarchical structure and story arcs that do involve like the other characters that you may get for free or like in the gacha pool. Can kind of make them a little bit more enticing. Like, hey, there's these really cool characters that are involved in this story arc that that are available to pull if you want to pull.
Yeah. Basically, the way I would describe the way these planets work is it's like they're like seasons of an anime. They're like their own like separated seasons.
Yeah, because the second planet story is completely different from the first planet, so it's like a self-contained arc in each planet. So I think that's a good thing.
That seems like a smart framework for a game that's obviously going to have a service element to it, where they can introduce new characters with new planets, and then kind of incorporate whatever subcast they want of the existing roster to be like the focus of that, like Josh said, that arc of the quote anime. I don't know.
Yeah,
it just seems smart for building on for the future.
Yeah, and it's kind of neat in the way that they're framing it as well, right? Because like with the new planet, you don't really know what the environments are gonna be until like you visit there. Like it kind of the same way that like Genshin is gonna be when there's a new region. What sort of like what sort of environment and scenery will you expect? Well, I think Genshin has like kind of a more limited framework to like build around that. But in Star Rail, since they like the stars are the limits essentially. Like you don't know what kind of like what sort of like alien like sort of scenery you might see. That like you can just like sort of like your imagination is like your limit. While in Genshin, like they kind of have to like stick within the boundaries of like this world, which also has its own benefits as well, because you have to think about like different scenery changes, different sort of like how does like the seasons on this like in this world work in Genshin, while in Star is like you're like building a whole ecosystem almost of like how does this planet operate and what's the struggle on this planet. While Genshin, I think they're more going for a more interpersonal sort of approach in their overall worldview.
Like the subplot is the siblings trying to find the other sibling. That's in Genshin. There's always that big overarching plot. I need to find where my sibling is, and that's why I'm doing all these other side quests and helping the Archons at the same time. Here it's more like I don't think the main character's like main plot is quite important, like who the actual main character is. At least I don't think so.
At least yet. I mean, there's definitely implications, and there's like I do like the kind of lore and backdrop that they set up for like Star Rail's world so far. Especially when you kind of get into it with the ions and whatnot, especially when you kind of interact with their like digital manifestations in the simulated universe, which is a really, really cool gameplay mechanic that I've seen a lot of people talk about. And I agree. I think that for me, that's probably the star of the show right now.
So go into it. For people who don't know, what is the simulated universe?
It is a roguelike.
It's a roguelike. You basically get buffs that are kind of like how you would get buffs in Hades, like attached to different gods. But in this one, it's based off of ions, which are gods, but there's like some like lore behind them. And then you have different paths you can take, and it's roguelike mode. And it's really fun because you get like the way the buffs work, you can stack them up together, and you can get some really broken combos, especially depending on the characters you bring.
Some 4-star character, they might be trash in the main game, but in this simulated universe, they become god tier thanks to all these buffs. Like
Herda just becomes a complete like blender. It's like insane.
There's one character called Sampo. He's voiced by Rufus from Trails. If you play in Japanese, he's like this troll and all he does is like these dots that does like nothing in the main game. But in here, you could get these like buffs to give like the dots like way more damage, and you can actually like kill like some of the hardest boss with like a level 20 like Sampo, because of apparently how the blessing works in the system. It's kind of crazy what you can do.
I have a confession.
Yes.
I'm an English dub player in this game.
Well, good for you.
Well,
I think it's kind of like, it's not like amazing, but it's kind of charming in its own way for me for some reason. There's something about okay, I'll be real with you. Like the two main sidekicks that the main character has is March 7th and another dude named Don Hung, sorry.
But you play in like Japanese, it's like Danko because of connotations.
That'll fuck me up. So but like their voice actors are clearly Amy and Shadow from Sonic. It's kind of really hilarious.
So I'm playing like in the Chinese dub on the Chinese audio on my desktop, but I did download it on my phone and it like defaulted to English, and it's like I'm not going to use the space. I'll keep it on English for a phone. And it's like I was wondering, it's like, why do I recognize March's voice actress? And then you said Amy. It's like, oh my god, that makes perfect sense.
It's like, oh, I gotta stick with my Japanese one because I got Yui Ogura, so that's.
I will say that at least for March's English dub, I think it's like a perfect fit for him.
I like the English voices. Like I wouldn't stick with it if I hated them. That's what I'll say. Like I think that there's the certain charm to English dub cast for this game.
And I'd say the localization in general is like very strong. Like especially like the side like dialogue and text and whatnot. There's a lot of charm and like flavor to it all, which is always good to see.
I heard there's a lot of issue in the Japanese side because they kind of like just machine translated a lot of the text.
Yeah, I've seen that, and I
think the thing that I have, like, I think the English text script is okay for the most part. I just think the composition of like a lot of its sentences are like, I feel like it's way more verbose than it needs to be. There's a lot of text in this game, and I feel like the way that some lines are sort of localized, I feel like it kind of, a lot of it feels long-winded to me. It's like, did it need to be this long? It feels like there's like sometimes there'll be like text boxes that just like take up the whole fucking text box, and I'm like thinking it's like I'm trying to think if like that's a problem with like kind of like just the pacing of like the conversation, or like if they should like.
Well, Josh, as we know, the primary inspiration for this game was Trails.
I know, and there's so many like collectibles, like note collectibles. So like even if it's like a recipe for something, it's like it's not even like a simple recipe. There's like a fucking lore dump before you get to the recipe. And I'm like, oh my god, there's so much fucking text.
I mean, that's just like real life.
There's so much in this game where it's like you'll find these like bits and pieces of like an actual book, and like you find all the parts, and it's like, this is just an actual book, and it's like, like Trails had that stuff where you like have one per game, but it's like you have like 5 per planet. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I feel like Kaseki like books were like more dense and more like to the point, like in terms of like where they stop compared to like this game. This game feels like it just never ends.
Like I think that was bad. You should try like Genshin when the second island came in. Was it Inazuma? Oh my god. You literally spent 3 hours talking to random NPCs on how to get a boat and get a passport to get to the new island. It's like, can I just skip all this shit? It's like, you don't say anything interesting.
There's also you just reminded me, that's also a thing that I don't like about Starville, and I think Genshin had the same thing too, where like there'll be some like RPGs that give you an option of like, okay, how do you want to like display the text? Do you want to display slowly, normal, faster, fastest, or instant? Like on like when text like pops up in the dialogue box. This one doesn't give you that option. It's very inconsistent. Sometimes when they like start speaking, like it'll do like that loading thing until it gives you the arrow to like move on to the next dialogue box. Or it'll or for some lines it'll give you that right away. Like there's no consistency between like whether whether you can go on to the next dialogue box instantly or not. It's just like it's variable between like the conversation cutscene composition, because there might be some like camera cuts that happens like mid sentence as they're delivering the line. So it's just like it's annoying a little. It's because like I've already read the text. I don't need to like wait for like the delivery, so I have to wait for like them to like do the camera cut before I can get onto the next dialogue on that. So I'm just like, gotta. It for me that's frustrating because like I'm a person. It's like once I've read the line, I can go to the next one. I don't need to hear the fucking 300-word essay that they want to deliver before I can get onto the next dialogue box, which is kind of often in this game.
Are you a trash can lore expert?
I have the trash can avatar on my profile. It's
Are you a trash can lore expert?
yes, I am a trash can lore expert. That's me.
I love how like so Trills has chest messages. This game has trash can messages.
Your character, your main character
thing.
loves trash cans. Like you have like an unhealthy obsession with trash cans in this game.
Even
Like-
your sidekicks are like, I'm not even question you anymore. This just seems normal.
I have a golden trash bag in my inventory. It will not leave.
Hell yeah.
Have you tried hiding in the
Whenever there's like a daily mission to say, hey, consume one consumable, I just feed trash to March. That's it.
Damn.
That's every time I'm like, hey March, go eat some trash. And there you go. Mission complete.
Damn. You guys are all March 7 haters.
I'm not a March 7th hater. I pick on her because I love her.
Feeding her trash. What is this?
He's getting trash and no one else is. I think that's love.
Damn. Is this the new norm? Am I missing something here? But yeah, I was just gonna say, do you hide in the hotel? Have you done that yet?
I did hide in the hotel, yes. I got the monster. That's right. I scared off.
Get the praise of high morals. That's what we are.
Yeah, there's like just a lot of like really dumb shit in this game, which I kind of like. I like that there's just like a lot of like kind of like fun, very little mini activities. Like there's some platforming puzzles where it's like your standard puzzle of like, hey, make sure to highlight all these platforms before you like to complete this puzzle, but you can't like obviously go back to a previous platform or it'll reset the puzzle. So there's like stuff like that. There's also like a minecart puzzle where like you kind of have to like put certain minecarts in certain nodes to like complete the puzzle, and you have to fill them up with ore or not. There's just like a lot of like cool side activities that you can do. That's like it's not all just like, hey, go on to the next thing in battle and go on to the next thing in battle. Like there's like there's some basic things. I think where this game kind of falls apart is like kind of, I don't want to say it's like the free to play nature of it, but like some of it is very clumsy in terms of like the way it presents story beats. Like for example, there are these two characters, Branya and Sile, and there's like this main story mission where you're going to an orphanage for a certain part of the first chapter. And like Bronya's like, this place feels very familiar, but I'm not sure, like, because she's part of like the silver main guards from like the overworld, and you're in the underground, like we're kind of like the people who are less fortunate kind of end up there because of how society has kind of like made them outcasts. And so you go visit this orphanage, and then like it's in a very clumsy way, like you go to like the main story objective, and I think I forgot if like you see a photo or like or just like you just went up to something or like some medicine or crates, a snow globe, and then Bonnie's like, oh yeah, I just remembered, I grew up here. It's like it like the lead up to it like was just like very sudden and like not really earned at all. It's just like you kind of knew that she didn't know where she like grew up, but the presentation of it just kind of felt very flat. Like what should have been like probably a bigger revelation for that character was just like, oh, I remember this. It's like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, I think it adds overall to the subplot. But you know what they should have done over there? Because you have Celia and Branya to join you, they should at least let you use them as a trial character. Some people like have a feel like, oh, is this a character worth getting or something like that? They let Himiko join you as a trial character.
Yeah, that's weird too. Like very early on, when you're like kind of going through the tutorial parts, you do get like trial characters like Himiko, like to see like their toolkits. Like you can kind of do trial characters. Yeah, trial characters for, like the current like limited banner likes like Sile, Pelu, Natasha, and Hook. Like that, like in Genshin, when they're on a banner, you can do like trial battles with them to see if you like them. You see how their toolkit works, like a very basic, like battle that you can complete for some minor rewards. But that's like a one-time thing, really, that you can do with them. But in terms of like having like throughout the story, there'll be times where like characters join you, but they don't really officially join you to like be used as trial characters on like the very beginning. It's like one of those systems that like it was like shown at the very beginning, but like never revisited upon again when it would make sense story wise to like have them as trial characters for that like one dungeon.
Yeah, I'll just straight up say like the entire like latter half of the first like real planet, they should have had Seele be a trial character because she's with you the entire time.
Yeah, they follow you all this time and you don't get to use them. Just kind of funny.
Yeah, it sucks for like people who like didn't roll for Seele. It's like, dude, I want to like kind of use this character more than just like the one trial thing. That just is like at least like feel a little bit of gratification.
It's especially bad when Bronya is not a limited time role, but Seele is, even though they have basically an equal importance in the first planet story. It's like, what the hell?
Is it going to happen again and again, like in Genshin? Is this like a Genshin thing where like there's like a new region, but then like the banner character is a limited character, like an important character to the story?
Yep, happen every time.
Yeah, it's like everything besides the actual free-to-play bullshit of this game I enjoy. And I'm still going to play it because I am having a fun time. But man, I wish it was just a regular, real video game.
Yeah, I mean, like the fighting, like the battle system, like we didn't really like really get into like what really makes it feel like Kiseki because we discussed the battle options, but like the ultimates, for example, like in older, they're basically S-crafts. Yeah, so like you can interrupt character turns or enemy turns, similar to how you do like in earlier Trails games, like in Liberal and Crossbell, especially.
But I think the biggest takeaway from why it makes it different from Trails with the X-Bricks or the Ultimate is because you don't get a huge delay from using it. So this is like a good way to like manipulate turn orders and trigger like your character passives, and that gives you a lot of complexity to a game that seems very simple on the surface.
Yeah,
right.
That's how I look at it.
One thing I will say that's very interesting, because I do know that like Genshin to a certain extent had multiplayer, but this is completely single player. Like, except for like your friends where you can like summon some of their units as supports for like grinding. This is
just like borrow from Fate Grand Order. You borrow one friend's support summon, right?
Yeah.
Or servant.
I might never get Seele, but I'll be able to use her off of my friends that I won't ask how much money they put into this game.
You can add me. You can borrow my Seele.
You can borrow my Seele too.
Yeah. Fuck you, Chow. Okay, how much money, Chow? How much money?
No. I don't want to get into this because I'm still salty that I missed the deadline of that.
Okay, so I only spent $150.
Only?
Yes. But you know what? I got more time. I feel I enjoyed my time in this game with more than the last two Trails game that cost me $150 from importing. So
you're justifying it like that, like
I want to say something here for full transparency.
Go for it.
Chow got 6,000 Jade for free.
That might be true. That might be true. But
I mean, that's not might be true. That's a fact. Like the developer gave you 6,000
Jade. 150 on top of that, and it's like, oh my god, Chow, you're like, you're gonna be
whale. Okay, you gotta get more than $1,000.
Sorry. You're right. You're a clownfish.
Yeah.
I don't know.
At least a clownfish is the best fish. I mean, who goes out half the world to look for his son?
It's because Chow just has Chow's frame of reference is his buddy that like puts in.
No, I made him salty yesterday that he ditched the anime stream. He was like, "You have way too many SSRs." It's like how many you spent? And then I was like, okay, I got this, and then he got really salty and left. We didn't watch Birdie Wing yesterday because of that.
That's fucked up, dude. Okay, that's like an affront to God for your wailing and flexing on your character. You missed a Birdie Wing episode because you made your friend mad.
He asked me, he's like, what? It's like, how did you get all that?
You should have said no. You should have said nothing. You just say, don't worry about it. Let's fucking watch some Birdie Wing and have a good time.
Yeah, but no comment.
He was watching it. Okay, never mind.
It was a good episode this week too, Chow. What the fuck?
Maybe I would have Sele if I'd had that extra jade.
Yeah,
I keep thinking
Chow.
about that.
Okay, Birdie Wing.
Well, I'm not gonna blame Chow for that. I'm gonna blame Alex.
It's like, oh man,
dang. So I mean, like, I think if Honkai Star Rail is worth checking out if you like turn-based games and you're willing to like put up with the gacha bullshit in the sense that like you're not easily swayed and like tempted by gacha bullshit. I think that's the best way I can put it, because this is inherently, a gacha game that it is a single player turn-based RPG that has gacha game mechanics where there are some characters you can earn for free, but not but not all the characters, and of course not the highest rarity characters that like do really cool shit.
That's not even getting into the fact that, much like Genshin, which this is one of the things that I did hear about Genshin, why I never actually played it. There is a similar like situation to like the constellation system from Genshin in the Eidolon, I think.
Yes.
System here. So it's like it's not enough necessarily just to get a 5-star character, because there's like additional buffs that they get for every time you re-roll that. Well, you get like an additional unit of that character.
Yeah, when you get a dupe, like for any character, like if you get a dupe of that character, you can like unlock certain more passive traits to them that enhance their. It's not. I imagine it's not mandatory, but if you are swayed or tempted by that, then very much beware. If you're like, I really want to like get the most out of this really cool high rarity character, and then coming to that realization, I need to roll more of this character to do that, and the rates for this are just like Genshin, where like the base rate for like to roll the highest rarity character is like 0.6%, and then that'll very gradually raise as you do more 10 rolls, and then there'll be like a soft pity limit at I think 90 for limited characters.
No. It's 75 for soft pity. So once you get to 75 rolls, your rates basically go skyrocket to like getting 10% for each SSR, and just keeps going higher and higher until it reaches like at 90 rolls, which is 100%.
Yeah, and to be clear, for the limited characters, it's not quite the same thing, because it's like you're guaranteed to get a 5-star character on the pity with the limited rolls, but that's any 5-star character in the rotation. I hit the pity on the limited star rail, the limited rail pass, and got a 5-star. I got Clara instead of Seele.
She's actually very good.
Yeah, like I'm not.
That's not the point, that.
Yeah, that's not the point. It's like, in order to guarantee to get Seele, I'd have to like to guarantee it, I'd have to hit hard pity again before she goes out of rotation, because the only thing is that they'd say, oh well, for this banner, if your second 5-star, if you didn't get it the first time, you're guaranteed to get it this time. And it's like, that's still fucked up.
Welcome to the Genshin 50/50. I actually hate the Genshin gacha system with a passion, to be honest with you. I feel like you cannot make any progress without at least spending the battle pass on it. It's one of the most predatory practices, so I really do hate when people say, oh, did you know that you got this like AAA game for free? But you know what? I don't feel like I would enjoy it without spending money. I feel being a free-to-play player is really
as evidenced by the money you've spent.
Yes, I feel like being a free-to-play player is really awful. It'll be like that Lucari video on the internet. I want to swipe. If you've ever seen that video. But, I'm not one of those guys. I don't want to be like that. But at the same time, it's like, it's like, yeah, they play a good game. But, there's a reason why they make it free-to-play, because they make more money this way from the gacha system.
Yeah, and like, from what I can hear, like, it's already off to a slightly faster start than Genshin. So it's like, well...
I mean, yeah, it's gonna keep on happening. They have Zenless Zone Zero in the works. That's another game that MiHoYo is working on. They also have probably other unannounced projects in the wings, and they're still continuing to support Honkai Impact Third, Genshin Impact. So I mean, they're rolling in it. They know how to make their games, know how to monetize it, they know how to find their audience. And there were some very good parts about them, some kind of points, and some really inherently bad points in terms of like just the nature of the gacha genre and the monetization that it makes. And mileage may vary. Some people will think it's whatever, and some people are like, this is the most fucked up thing that's happened in the gaming industry since like it's made. It's just all valid points.
My thought with free to play games at this point is that if I was given the option to just like pay a sub fee and not have to worry about any of the free to play bullshit, I would much rather do that.
Yeah, but you know what? That would make less money in the long run.
You know what's kind of
Yeah, I
crazy?
know.
My friend, the whale friend
I
I was
agree with
talking to earlier, he refuses to play any game that has a sub because that feels like I have to spend the time to play it to get my money's worth. But then when you play a gacha game, you're willing to throw thousands and have no self control, and then that's no longer an issue. I don't know. It's a weird kind of mindset.
It's all a psychological thing because it's like, oh well, if you're paying money when you don't have to, then it's like, well, it doesn't feel like for some people it just doesn't feel exploitative, even though it very much clearly is.
I will say, like in terms of like playability, like comparing my experiences like here from Genshin, like at least this feels more pleasant to play than Genshin, because Genshin was very much you always had to be play an active role as an action RPG. There's like not really a fast forward option. There's not an auto battle option to kind of like get the busy work done for you. While in this game, it's a turn based game, so it's kind of they kind of have more quality of life features than Genshin had. They have turbo mode and like an auto battle option
yeah,
here.
you have to do everything manually.
And the dailies are like really fucking brain dead simple compared to like Genshin.
They basically took the Genshin dailies and just trimmed it by 1/4, so it'll take even less time to finish the dailies in here. I would say,
it's like it's one of those like games that like maybe I'll like keep up with it more, like not fall off as fast as Genshin. I inevitably will one day, but like right now it's like one of those games. Like it's kind of like a sort of empty month outside of Zelda for me. I don't know what else will really fill in the time right now. So I'm just like I'm kind of fine with like playing
Forspoken
Starvale
DLC.
Yeah.
That-
Yeah.
I mean that Forspoken DLC, at least from what the gameplay trailer showed, looks like it might be better in the main game. Not saying much.
System Shock remake is coming out in the end of the month. Believe me.
Yeah,
truly
it's definitely
is.
definitely a May release at the last day if it does hit that date. But but once again, like I think they have a lot of really neat ideas with Star Rail. I'm interested to see how this develops. I still have a lot of content to go. I usually play it when I when I have some downtime now, and we'll see where it goes. That's all I can really say. Is I like where it's going so far. Like it has a more immediate hook to me than Genshin did. And
I think I'm quitting Genshin. I'm not playing Genshin.
Wow.
I don't believe that for a
I
second.
don't know. That's a really bold claim you made here.
Honkai Star Rail will be my replacement because I found the story here is way more engaging.
Yeah.
Combat's way better because I don't really care for open world games, to be honest with you. Even though I put a lot of time in Genshin, I just feel like I actually prefer playing turn based.
The model. This is a more of a traditional JRPG structure, like you see, like in FF10 or like in Trails. Like that's not like fully open world. There's like designated zones and corridors, and like there's a lot of fast travel nodes to get around really really fucking fast. Like I do like the fast travel placement of these nodes. Like they're always by a quest giver, so you never have to like really walk long distances at all. You just stop fast travel, fucking everywhere.
Like in my opinion, like for me, I find open world games to be painful to play. People like exploration and get all the rewards, but I'm just there for the rewards. I don't really care. I'm just going straight to the rewards. Like once you play too much, you just zone in, and it's like, can I just get my rewards immediately and go? Basically, right? And it just becomes a chore to play. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, so I don't know, but yeah, it's they definitely have it like you can definitely see like how they transferred a lot of like the Genshin like core structure and formula outside of the open world, like how they adapted like those system structures and UI presentation into Honkai Star Rail. like into a more traditional JRPG. So like when you're leveling your account, you still have that like a designated NPC back at your start train to like talk to them and claim your rewards every time like you level up your account level, like you did in Genshin, where you had to go talk to that person in town to go get like your rewards for leveling up your account. The way that like you interface with a lot of its systems UI wise is very reminiscent of Genshin, but it just feels more. It just feels faster to do.
It feels even funnier that the mascot character that gives you all the rewards is voiced by Toa in the Japanese version.
No fucking way. That's funny as hell. Okay, I didn't know that. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's kind of initial thoughts on Star Rail. I think it's a really solid like it makes it if you know what you're getting yourself into, if you're like kind of know what the gacha game genre is and what you're getting yourself into, like I think it makes a solid first impression. If you've never played a gacha game before, you'll probably enjoy it. But like I said, have some self control. And I'm not going to say don't spend money on it. I'm going to say, you know, play a good amount of it first. Decide for yourself and be financially responsible.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
the funniest thing. Well, it's not actually funny. Is that when you go to like exchange, like if you look at the like actual shop and look at it in the smallest like letters imaginable when you on the screen where it's like, hey, do you want to purchase the gacha pool currency? It'll say, please play responsibly, and it's like takes up like maybe 1/100th of the screen in the bottom left corner. It's so small. I didn't even notice it at first. That just like randomly saw. It's like that is there because somewhere they're legally obligated to have that there. Otherwise, it would not be there. And it's like, come on.
absolutely.
Belgium, I think.
Sorry. I don't even know if this is available in those countries that like kind of ban loot boxes in general. I don't know, but
To wrap up the conversation a little bit. Oh, go ahead and give your last thought, James. Then I'll speak.
I think it gets around it because technically you're not buying the loot boxes directly. You're buying the jade that you then pay for the loot boxes.
Oh yeah, that's all the conversions. So there's like a loophole.
Yeah, and I think that's also why there's the special rail passes and the regular rail passes. It's another like obfuscation where it's like, well, but you can spend this for so many different options. Regular loot box pull, which you should never spend money on unless you're dumb, or the special loot box pull, which is what you actually want because there's literally no downsides.
I mean, the regular, I can see people going like if they want to try to get the pity fast for the regular.
But the pity for the regular is like 300, I think.
Yeah, and people will that's like a number for people to like strive for, right? That's another way to like hook them and be like, okay, I wanna reach that pity.
Well, at least that's a thing, because Genshin didn't have that. They actually implemented some good systems from Genshin because of all the complaints. So this game actually starts out with all the quality of life features from Genshin. Like the light cones, which is basically the weapons in Genshin. Back then, there used to be like 3 different weapons you could get, and you could never get the one that you wanted. I think the only reason they changed it because there's 2 like basically popular YouTube creators that started making videos, and they got 31 of different weapons. And they actually take like 80 to get to, or at least 70 for pity for those things. And yeah, they spent a lot of money and didn't get what they wanted. And people basically bitched at them, and they finally changed the system. So it's a good thing that they have some of those features. But like I said, spend responsibly.
All right. So any final thoughts, guys? I said my piece. Any final thoughts on Star Rail?
The best characters are 4-star. Tengyun is the best character in the game.
In addition to the feedback and the impressions that we got from Josh, James, and Chow, Josh Tolentino, who is a more recent contributor to the site, who has been doing a lot of news
Josh
for
T.
Yeah, so we have 2 Josh T's, Josh 1 and Josh 2. You can decide which one's 1 and 2. But yeah, Josh Tolentino has been doing a lot of news posts for us on RPGsite.net for the last 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks. He's been really doing a stellar job there. But wrote his first opinion piece. It's basically a review, kind of in all but name, about his initial impressions on Honkai Star Rail, coming from the perspective of someone who did ostensibly put significant time into Genshin Impact, and I think even Honkai Impact third. So very high opinion on Star Rail from Josh Tolentino up on the site. And then, as Chow alluded to, we do have a few minor guide pieces to accompany that feature as well. So we do have a lot of coverage of Star Rail on the site, and depending on how those do, I'm guessing there will be some push from our bosses to see like if there's any push to do more features on that as the game continues on alongside Genshin Impact. So we'll see how that kind of shakes out in the long run in terms of traffic.
That's a little grim framing, right? It's like, depending on how it goes, maybe our bosses will push us to do more Star Rail content.
It's both that and also like how eager people are to contribute to that. So it is a little grim, maybe, but. So, actually, I'll go ahead and do my little game section here. So we only had 2 games in our game talk section here that we slotted. We wanted to earmark most of the time for Honkai Star Rail, and now that we're an hour in, I think we've done that game justice. But I've also played a game that was brought up last week on the podcast that I stated I was kind of interested in trying out because I didn't realize it had been received so well, and that is Cassette Beasts. So Cassette Beasts is an indie Pokemon-like that released on Steam in late April. I believe it's slated to release on Xbox and Switch in May, in the upcoming days. On Steam, when I last checked, it was overwhelmingly positive, like 97% of 1,500 reviews. So I'm like, all right, I'll give this a go. Apparently, How Long to Beat says it's about 20 hours long. I'm not diving into something that's too onerous. Let's see how we're looking at. And I downloaded it literally just last night, played about 5 hours of it, and I can kind of see where the positive impressions are coming from. So to kind of tee this up a bit for Cassette Beasts, I have not played any other Pokemon like other than Pokemon, and I also skipped like generations 5 through 8 on Pokemon. So I haven't played like Pokemon Uranium. That's what it was. I haven't played Pokemon Uranium. I haven't played Temtem. I haven't played any of these other ones. So this is my first time like wading into this space for Cassette Beasts. It starts out as just to tee up the story, where your character, who is a self-insert avatar, washes up on a beach and basically is immediately runs into a character named Kaylee, who basically says like, it kind of is like seat of your pants, like here's a tape deck, now transform into a monster, now let's go ahead and record this other monster, that's just how it works here, come on, let's get going. And that ends up being kind of like the through line of the whole game so far, at least in the first several hours, is that this island is like an island out of time. It seems like it's tangentially like it's parallel to our world, but no one knows.
The 90s.
Well, it's like obviously it's got like the recorder, the tape deck aesthetic to it. It is like this character literally says like, I am from Australia. But they talk about when other characters like wash up on the beach or arrive out of the sky, it implies that they come from different sections of time. There's actually a part where it's like, has World War II happened yet? Or has the US landed on the moon from where you're from, etc. So like different people have different like fragments of. And it seems weird that this is how I'm starting out the discussion here, where it's like this really mystery kind of like anachronistic meld island of people from all sorts of different timelines from, our real world, quote unquote. But this world, for some reason, has these monsters, and these monsters are very blatantly just kind of like diet Pokemon, I guess, where they instead of having physical attacks and magic attacks, it's all melee or ranged. There is like a type chart in the game that looks exactly like the type chart they can get on Cerebi or Bubblepedia or whatever. You can hold more than 4 abilities per beast, but there are also, how it works is each beast is represented by a tape. And on this tape, there is a sticker that represents what the beast looks like, but then you can kind of alter it with additional stickers, which behave kind of like TMs, where a beast, as it levels up, will learn new abilities, but then you can kind of slap different stickers on to kind of modify it. So it's like TMs or HMs. But you don't actually capture the beast. You record their like DNA, their info, and you transform into them, which is kind of nice from a gameplay perspective because you'll have your character, you'll encounter different partner characters, and the levels that you get, the EXP that you are awarded, is assigned to your character, not to the beast. So if you get a new beast, for the most part, you can kind of use them, and they will be decently strong, even if you're using them outright or you caught them in a low-level area, etc. However, the different recordings do kind of tier up in a star system. So each beast is rated 1 to 5 stars. So when you first capture a beast, your character, like your actual playable avatar, might be level, let's say 21. But then you captured a beast, you haven't used it yet, so it's at 0 or 1 stars. As you gain EXP for your character, that beast will level up from 1 star to 5 star. And
So
learn
do you
new...
like equip 6 monsters or something like you would
Yeah.
in Pokemon?
So everything is double battles. So it's like Pokemon Coliseum or Gale of Darkness. So everything is double battles. It's you and your NPC partner. And this game apparently does also have drop in, drop out co-op where someone just takes control of the partner. And it's actually like it uses the Steam remote play together feature. So basically, I believe what that means is if Adam wanted to play with me, he wouldn't need a copy of the game. He would just stream his inputs to me. I've never actually used remote play together, but there's been a lot of UI pop-ups. It's really well integrated into the Steam, I don't know, API, where like I could send Adam, if he's on my friends list, a game invite. And as far as I understand, he could join without ownership or whatever, and it would just be through our network connection, and he could take over for the second character if you wanted to, which is kind of fun that they implemented that, because the double battle system, anyone who's played a lot of Pokemon, which I admittedly haven't, opens up a lot of different just kind of gameplay avenues in terms of supporting your partner, multi-hit moves, single hit moves, abilities that affect the whole field, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how to describe it, but one thing that I found about this game that I haven't found, I'm still working through Pokemon Violet. Like I'm like 10 hours into that game. I have it installed on my Switch, and for whatever reason, I just can't like find myself engaged with it. I don't think it's bad, but I haven't latched onto it. But in this game, there's something about it that it just scratches like an itch that Pokemon Scarlet doesn't, where it has a vibe and an art style that's very reminiscent of like Pokemon Gen 4 or Gen 5, like Pearl Platinum or Black White. It has a lot of more traditional RPG trappings as well, where you actually have like a quest log. They're subdivided into main quests, side quests, and rumors, which are kind of more like little ancillary tasks. The game is very open-ended, where it's not railroading you from gym to gym, which I know Pokemon doesn't do that anymore either. But it's just kind of like, here's a map. You've got a couple different main quests. You've got a couple different side quests. We'll kind of point on the map roughly where they are, but we're not going to tell you to go in a particular direction. We're not even going to suggest one. Just kind of do what you want. So I really do appreciate that. And of course, if you go in a certain direction, you'll find, oh crap, the monsters here are way higher than me, so I should probably find another route first. Like there's probably an intended path, but the game's not explicitly going to tell you. It's going to let you kind of figure it out for yourselves, which I always appreciate when games allow you to do that. There is a system that's kind of Metroidvania-esque, which is a little fun. So you can capture monsters, just like whether you're not, I think there's 120 in total, and monsters do evolve. They call it, what do they call it? They call it like rewriting, where once you get a tape and you get a monster up to 5 stars, you can kind of rewrite it where it then basically evolves. And most monsters will branch evolve, so you have different options. Sometimes it's very explicit where
You
it
just
says,
pick.
yeah, you just pick. In some cases you do just pick. Like for instance, there was one monster that is basically, this is a very, very early monster that you meet. It's basically a crab with a caution cone, like a traffic cone on its back. And when I got one and evolved it, it's like, do you want this traffic crab to evolve into something that focuses on ranged attacks or melee attacks? And then I picked, okay, melee attacks. So then my traffic crab evolved into Lobstacle, which is like a melee focused crab, but it kind of could have picked range. And apparently there's also
Can I
suggestions.
just say, Lobstacle is a really fucking good name for a Pokemon type thing.
That's pretty much all the names. That's pretty much all of them. Some of the monsters are have a really good theme or really good design. Some of them are not quite as clear. Like the crab with the traffic cone on its back, that's simple, that's perfect, that's easy. There's another one
Basically
where
a
it's
hermit crab using
yeah.
Oh, it is a shell. Okay.
Yeah, there's another one that's supposed to be like a siren, like a siren of the sea, but has like a microphone instead of singing. So I'm like, I kind of get that. Um, the designs are fun, but I don't know if they're any better or worse than any like Temtem monster or Pokemon Uranium or any other Fakemon or things like that. But they're fine. I don't have any issue with them. It has been suggested that some, depending on when you evolve them, whether it's daytime or nighttime, might have also different branches. And one thing that's just recently been introduced to me in the game is that monsters can fuse. They can DNA digivolve. Basically, there is a 120 monster bestiary Pokedex, and then if I go view fusions, it says I have seen 5 fusions out of 14,400. So I'm pretty sure that you've seen like those websites where it's just take the sprite and meld them together in terms of like this is all just programmatic. The fact that there's 14,000 fusions just tells you that is how this game is implemented.
Just blend that into a game.
Yeah. So I've seen 5, and there's apparently 14,000, and it literally says like you have seen 5 out of 14,000. That's 0% rounded down. And I'm like, oh, neat. So this game might take a long time to complete. And then here's the thing that I wasn't expecting from this game. So far it's very charming, very it's very like straightforward, but it has enough systems underneath that it's not too easy, it's not too boring, it's very nonlinear, so it does require a little bit of thought and just kind of wanderlust. But you end up early on in this game going to an underground train station, and you find like this glitching, like it actually makes like glitch effects appear on your screen, like portion of like a mannequin. It's meant to be like very unsettling, very creepy, and they call it an archangel. And they're like, what are the archangels? Like these like otherworldly beasts. There's 8 or 9 of them in this world, and it tries to sing to you, but you can't make out the verse. And it basically says, if we go to these other train stations on the map, we might be able to put together the verse and figure out like what these archangels are from and where they're coming from. And I'm like, that was creepier than I expected. But then it got worse. I found a train station. There was like there's a little micro puzzles involving like platforming and switches. And some switches you have to press once. They flip levers. Some switches you have to hold down. Et cetera, et cetera. So there's some light puzzle making, and it's fine. I go into this other train station, and I go into another fight with an archangel, but this one, instead of being like the pixel art style of the rest of the game, it's like this 3D animated stop motion sort of really creepy figure. I'm seeing if I can find a picture of it to throw in chat, which I know doesn't help anyone on the podcast, but it's just something where it almost looks like something out of like a Tim Burton movie that I'm fighting on the right hand side of the screen. And it's like incredibly unnerving. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Or like from something from like Beetlejuice. And the first one was like a mannequin. This one was like a puppet. And I'm just like, okay, so this game has some creepy undertones. And I have no idea like where the narrative's going. Like, how does this tie into beasts that are recorded onto tapes? No idea at all. But so it's for anyone that's enjoyed Gen 4, Gen 5 Pokemon and didn't latch on to Scarlet and what was Gen 8?
Scarlet and Violet.
Scarlet and Violet, sorry. I can't guarantee that you'll like this game, but for someone like me who has struggled to latch on to the more recent Pokemon despite trying to, this game I've played like 5 hours in an evening already, just downloading it from a whim. I'm like, oh, I'm really enjoying this. Just it rewards you. Like it has a fun little short gameplay loop where you do little micro quests, you get a reward, you get a new TM, you get a new beast, you upgrade it. You feel like you're constantly making progress. The story is interesting, more interesting than I would have expected going in. It's not just there is the little basic like you are a ranger. There's ranger champions that you can battle to prove your worth, and we'll put your worth on the stamp card like gym leaders or whatever. But then it has like this, where the hell is this island out of time? What the hell are these manifestations that appear in the underground train stations? I have no idea. Oh, there's also some fun little thing where this seems more like side quest, but there are these creatures that are drawn and represented very much like a classic vampire. They wear like black outfits, pale skin, dark hair, etc. But they're like real estate agents. and they're trying to sell you property, and it's just fun little quirk. It's just like a fun little quirky, like they're vampires in more ways than one, or things like that. So there's like, the game's not all serious, it's whimsical, but then has this like serious side to it, slant to it. So I've had a really good time. For those that are, I know we're going into a period where we have Zelda dropping, Final Fantasy dropping, Trails into Reverie dropping. We have a lot of big games coming up, but this game, I'm glad that I'm deciding to like. I was also still working on playing War Tales, which I brought up on some previous podcasts. That's another long-winded game. Like, I want something a little bit more bite-sized, a little bit more whimsical, something that I might be able to finish in just not a few days, because apparently it's still 15 to 20 hours long, but and not too much time. And I've really enjoyed my time with this. I can kind of see where it's just really fun to play is the bottom line. So I've enjoyed it, and I recommend people who are curious to try it out. And with that, we'll go into the a few article shout outs and our news section, which, as we alluded to earlier, is pretty darn light, mostly due to the fact that it's Golden Week over in Japan, or just recently wrapped up in Japan. Before we do that, we do have some of the article shout outs. We talked about Josh Tolentino's Star Rails impression piece, plus the guides that have been put together for that. Here's something that we have joked about in this podcast regarding some fighting games. We've spent between visual novels and RPGs, I would say that the third allotted amount of time on this podcast that we speak to is fighting games. So we talked a bit about Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. We talked a bit about Blaze Blue.
Melty Blood.
That one, yeah. Melty Blood. And Guilty Gear, that was the other one. Strive was the other one. So we've spent a decent amount of time talking about those games, because I know that those are a passion of Josh and Chow primarily. We joked about this, but Alex Donaldson, our boss, who makes us write Honkai features and guides apparently, did write up a feature about how Street Fighter VI is actually a role-playing game. So I have not been following any of the marketing or press for Street Fighter VI. I'm not sure. I know that Chow has played. I've seen him stream Street Fighters 4 and 5 a bit, so I don't know if he's excited for 6 or if it's not the type of fighting game he typically plays. But I guess Street Fighter 6 has like an action arcade mode that plays similar to like a Yakuza title, where you're fighting thugs on the street and you're leveling up, you're getting new abilities, and it's meant to be kind of like an extended, elaborate training mode.
Yeah, and it even has like actual like proper stats and whatnot. So it's like, no, this is straight up like an action RPG.
So
like,
basically, they're trying to flush out like the single player mode of Street Fighter 6, and it's a dedicated mode called the World Tour mode. It's sort of like almost a direct response to how poorly focused Street Fighter 5 launched, because when Street Fighter 5 originally launched, there was barely any single player elements to it. They didn't even have an arcade mode when it launched.
And people were pretty upset about that.
Yeah, so it was a very competitive esports focused type of game from the get go, and that it didn't really
it didn't really engage the majority.
Yeah, it didn't really speak to, because a lot of people who pick up fighting games and play them casually, they like might want to do an arcade mode. They're not fighting games aren't really known for their story mode, but some more modern fighting games have really stepped it up, like with Mortal Kombat, especially. You see some games like Guilty Gear has been trying to make more narrative focused story modes where you don't really fight in them necessarily, but they're like you have like a cinematic story unfolding, kind of like an elaborate visual novel almost.
Josh, I miss Blaze Blue.
Yeah, Blaze Blue was pretty much like a visual novel in terms of that, with some fights interspersed.
And not even just that, like the side modes, like Abyss mode was, it's just like a roguelike.
Yeah, then you had Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, had like a dedicated like RPG mode where it was kind of you did like a side scrolling sort of battles in it with boss fights, and you could like upgrade like your weapons and your weapon grid in it and all that. So Street Fighter 6 is kind of like the next big evolution of a single player mode in a fighting game, where they like pretty much turn it to like you said, like almost like Yakuza, like a Dragon style of presentation with action, and turning it into an action RPG where like you have a character that you fully create. You can be very, very flexible, versatile with that character create mode. You can make monstrosities that people have been sharing all over social media when the betas were going on, and I'm sure there'll be more to come. And as you're going through that mode, you're exploring like open zones in it, and you can pretty much like go up to like any NPC and fight them. There's stats involved, and there's like different clothes that you can buy with in-game money, and it'll tweak your stats. It'll You can learn new fighting styles from like the roster that you of Street Fighter 6 that you meet inside that mode, and you can actually like mix and match their moves as well. So if you like say like Ken's normal moves, but you want like Chun-Li and Blanca's specials, you can mix and match them together in your created character. And you can like obtain them by like becoming like their pupil and study under them, and then and eventually gain their special moves. And then if you beat them in battle, you can gain like their some of their supers, and all that sort of stuff. And then like you can take like this creative character that you made, and you actually kind of bring it online, and like in a very casual, low stakes match, you can challenge other people's creative character in like the online multiplayer lobby that they advertised like in the last Street Fighter 6 showcase. So you can actually like kind of test out and see what other people are doing, how they created their character, what sort of getup that they have for the monstrosities, or maybe they're awesome, hot, normal people, and see what sort of move sets that they have, and it even takes into account like your character's proportions and like the length of their arms, the length of their legs, and tweaking the hitboxes of your character based on like the proportions that you've made for your character.
And you can even use them in online matches. It does not make the mistake that Soul Calibur does. You cannot use them in ranked. Thank fucking God.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the slime type monster or something in
Dude,
oh
my god, that was
couldn't even see the hitbox, and everyone's like,
the fact that the Soul Calibur developers were like, oh yeah, well that was intentional. We want them to use their create a soul and ranked, and it's like, I understand, but don't.
Not on rank, only casual mode. It's like,
yeah.
You ever went to those casual rooms where they let people use boss characters? And that's okay, apparently now. But no, that should never be allowed.
So yeah, I mean, Alex and I have been talking about it, but ever since they showed off this, Capcom showed off this mode, and we're like thinking like, this would be a fun thing for the site. Like for me, it's like there's enough RPG like stuff there that like it feels meaningful for the game in a very tasteful, fun fashion. That's like it's not like a main focus for the site, I would say, but like it's a fun thing to like kind of bring in. And like for me, like when I go into it and I'm thinking, if I do coverage for this game on the site, like I want to definitely approach it from the angle from like what a standard RPG player would feel like going in and not really know much about fighting. It's like, hey, I'm a person who loves RPGs. I may not be really familiar with the fighting game genre, or maybe not really the fighting games. Like, will this speak to me if I like just want to engage with the RPG mode of it? How much replayability and how many hours can I get out of that? And will it inspire me ultimately to like play further than that? Will it inspire me? From the front, if I were to write from the perspective like a person who enjoys RPGs, would it inspire me to like go online or play like other real people and like learn beyond just what's the standard single player RPG offerings?
I mean, I have played like the story mode of Street Fighter 4. That was like 15 years ago or something like that. And I could see, I'm not going to say I'm going to play Street Fighter 6, but I could see this being something where it's like, yeah, I've played Yakuza Like a Dragon, or I've played some other action titles. I've been interested in at least familiarizing myself with this IP or with these characters, and having that kind of be the gateway for that. Now, whether or not that turns into someone that goes online and plays competitively, I think that's another pretty big hurdle.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what makes me interested about that. Like, because it often captures like the spirit of Yakuza Like a Dragon, right? It's very goofy and self-aware. Like you're fighting, like they said, like in the showcase, like refrigerators and just like random objects. It's just like what am I doing? It's just like, and then like I was also watching some other coverage from other outlets who tried out this world tour mode, and like one of the random NPCs that like you'll meet, like it's like some like luchador on like the rooftop with like a whole superhero getup, you know. And it's like, what is going on? It's like there's a lot of wackiness, and like it doesn't take itself too seriously. But ultimately, like, what is at the end of that? What does the end look like for that single player mode? And does it try to make a bridge, construct a bridge for people to be like, okay, I want to like play this further? Because they'll create a character with their own custom look, custom attire, custom move set. But now, can it like how will they feel like if they're like, okay, now I have to actually play this game, quote unquote, for real? I have to play, the base roster, the actual real normal characters of this game that all have like a very strict assigned moveset that were all deliberately designed for this game, obviously, to be, a competitively balanced game at the end.
Or maybe Capcom just wants to get like more like the casual crowd involved to kind of increase their audience. And if they stop at the
Obviously,
story mode,
yeah.
maybe that's kind of like that's still a win for them. Or getting
of
people
course.
interested in viewing tourneys where they'll be familiar with the characters, they have played through them. Maybe they
Yeah,
won't play competitively themselves, but they'll tune in on tournaments and be more involved in that way.
Yeah,
And it's worth noting.
ultimately, it's like it's not always about the conversion rate. It's always about like thinking about like if it will convert one, and two, like will the game game could try to convey that or not? Two and three, ultimately, single player is a key part of fighting games. Like I know a lot of competitive fighting players may not feel like that, but for the vast majority, like the vast player base, the majority of people playing these games, it's always going to be the casual players that like just pick up and play that, and may or may not take it competitively, but the the core that stick with it will always like be lesser number compared to like the overall number of people that eventually pick up this game.
Yeah, and it's important to say that like Capcom's outright said that their plans is that they want to have this game sell 10 million copies. That's what they're aiming for. And honestly, I think they're doing all the right things to kind of get that. So
Yeah,
we'll see, though.
I really hope that Street Fighter 6 is successful. Like I think they've absolutely sold me on like their concept for the game and all the footage and like my brief time with like the demo that they put out. Like I think there's a lot of like really interesting things that they've done with this game, and like it feels like the next step of like what a fighting game should feature as like in the base package. It feels like a complete package from the get go from what they're putting out, and like a lot of like just a lot of features that makes what a modern fighting game should be. Like it makes it more pleasant. Like say private lobbies. It's all menu based. It's no like Arxis chibi avatar running around a station, to like get a match set up, and like it's all menu based. It's simultaneous matches going on in that private lobby, for instance. It's like that's something that like that's very very pick up and play, very just fast. And then the instant rematch times, like when you hit rematch with a person, whether it's local or online, it
Yeah.
happens instantly. It's not like Tekken 7 where it's like get ready for the next battle, and then
I
like
also
it'll be like
love
7 seconds or
I love how
10
there's
seconds.
some people that are upset about that. When first off, both of you have to have to press the button, and second, you're not seeing anyone that actually plays fighting games complain about this.
Yeah, I mean, like it's one of those things like when you want to when I want to play a fighting game online, I want to get as many matches as I can in the shortest amount of time. Because at the end of the day, what I want to play is the fighting game. If you want to take a break from playing the fighting game, you can always do that.
No, that's the thing I really hate about Grand Blue versus that lobby. You spend so much time waiting in a lobby, and it just takes forever to load the matches.
Yeah,
It's-
it's not
It feels
fun.
awful.
It's not fun when you have to like wait in between matches. So I really hope that Street Fighter 6 like if Street Fighter 6 like is successful in what it brings, I hope that is the standard baseline for what all modern fighting games from then on like are expected to like launch with. Like that should be the expectation for fighting games. It shouldn't be like stripped down, having to make compromises of like having some like bare bones thing, and they're still charging you $60 to $70. And like, please get our game. There's barely any features in it. It's like, come on. So hopefully this will be like the new base skeleton of fighting games moving forward in terms of like features and expectations and quality of life features.
speaking of features, the last feature write-up that we have on the site is one that I almost forgot about, but Josh remembered to put it on the list here at the last minute. And that is, we put up a very important feature about a surprise game from March, and that was Paranormasight. So this was a game that ended up taking us by surprise. We kind of featured it in one of our March podcasts, and Josh had the opportunity to basically get some unique to us question and answer put forth from the developers of that game. So Josh, just tee us up about how this came to be and what you ended up putting up for the Paranomasight interview that's up on the site right now.
I honestly, like, it came to me as a surprise because Adam was actually the one who emailed me about the offer through our PR contact for the site at Square Enix, and they're like, hey, we noticed that you kind of had glowing things to say about Paranormasight. Would you be interested to talk to some of the key staff? And then they listed like 4 key staff. It's pretty much all like the names you would want to like interview for this game. You had like the writer and director, both the same person with Takanari Ishiyama. Kind of like this is like his major breakout hit, and like in terms of like coming back to like a brand new adventure game being sold simultaneously worldwide. Like he was already kind of like a pretty well known in the Japanese space for some detective series that was only released in Japan. But so it was kind of like the first time that like most Western players would get to know him with this game. You had Hidenori Iwasaki, who composed the music for this game. A lot of people in the RPG space will recognize that name because he contributed to titles such as Stranger of Paradise, titles such as Final Fantasy XI, and then titles such as, in my crowd, Front Mission. People like the character designer for this, Gen Kobayashi, which people will definitely know for people like RPGs because one of the major artists that contributed to Neo: The World Ends with You. The producer of the game, Kazuma Oshu, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll interview all of them. So when obviously it was like an email interview, and email interviews are always inherently difficult to do because you never know, you can't really respond to their responses. You kind of have to have already a list of questions already prepared beforehand, and you can't really like have any questions to like, because you can't anticipate the responses, right? You don't know how they're going to respond, so you can't really have any questions that follow up their response, like in a more normal face-to-face interview, right? So I wanted to really get their perspectives on certain aspects of this game, so I had to find ways to like rope them in, and I was very, very happy, with the response, because I think a lot of people, when they think about the Paranormasight community, it's not like super big, but it's very passionate. It's definitely found its crowd, and most people who've played it really, really like it. A lot of it's not uncommon, to see, or it's not rare to see in that community say, oh yeah, this is like my favorite game this year so far, or like this might end up being my favorite game this year so far. Like those are responses that are common for this game when people have played it, and they're like, we're really impressed with and it's nice. It's a nice game because it's something that like people can complete in a reasonable time frame. Like an average playthrough for this game is like 7 to 10 hours, so it's super digestible for people. So a lot of people who play it will see the end of the game because it's captivating and it doesn't overstay its welcome. So that's what like really, really motivated me to get really deep into the weeds with this interview in terms of like not only just like development stories and like and they're the kind of the process of going into it. I really appreciate the responses from all the staff. Like I really love Iwasaki's response about his approach to the game, because when you look at Iwasaki's record, he's mostly done RPGs, and he's like, yeah, this is the first time I've done an OST for like this adventure genre. So there's a lot of learning, kind of learning as I go. And I asked him, what differentiates, writing music for the adventure genre compared to other RPGs that you've already done. So he had a really, really insightful response to that. Ishiyama, of course, like had a lot to say because he was, director and writer for this game. And of course, Kobayashi Oshu were fantastic as well. Like Kobayashi, a lot of like the game's memorable, like since it's an adventure game, like obviously the visuals and music all really have to come together very well, and there's a lot of like very memorable expressions that people have coming into Paranormasight that I really wanted to pick Kobayashi's brain about with this. But what really, really made me confident going is like I want to ask questions that are like more spoiler focused, and that's something that you don't really ever get to see out of like these kind of like post launch interviews. Like you're really getting to the nitty gritty of like questions that'll only speak to people that have like completed this game, and you're always worried about it's like well people might fall off because like it'll be like maybe some 40-hour RPG, and maybe only like out of like 100 readers maybe only like maybe 5 or 7 people have like can really read this part, right? But in the Paranorma site, since like most of the people who played it have already finished it because it doesn't really overstay its welcome, they can always that like they can usually just go into that knowing like, hey, I marked a spoiler warning, and they're comfortable going, reading on, or they can always come back to it because all it takes for them is like 7 to 10 hours when they get around to come back and like see, okay, obviously it's gonna be up forever there.
And I know 7 to 10 hours is not nothing, but it's almost more like a movie where it's like you've either seen it or you haven't. You're not in the process of seeing it. I know that's not quite true because a 2-hour movie versus a 10-hour game, but it is kind of like where for longer RPGs you have plenty of people who say I played the first chapter or I played the first act and fell off, like me on Pokemon or whatever. But this one it's just like if it's reviewed and had really high word of mouth, people who have started it have been very inclined to finish it and then are very inclined to talk about it because other people that have started it have also finished it and then can also make more use of opportunities like this where we can talk to the creative talent behind the game and some of the decision making that went into what people liked about it. So it just kind of all works well together in that way.
Yeah, so I'm incredibly grateful to Adam and our Square Enix PR contact for getting this all organized and getting us access to these folks. They're all really wonderful, and I'm really happy that's it turned out very well. If there's anything I love doing recently is like trying to get interviews with like developers of like games that I really love. Like for this I got into contact with Keizo, the creator of Asta Libre Revision, and we had a really really great interview there about that game. And like this is something that I would like to keep on going whenever the opportunity presents itself. I like discovering like these niche undiscovered games and like really thinking about like, man, what was the development of this game like thinking about like what were I can't even imagine, like so like I think these types of like pieces and opportunities are like what makes this sort of field of work the most special for me, because I like connecting to like the developers and like the people who make these games on like a very human level. um
Yeah, because regardless of whatever zeitgeist might be going on, like art is inherently a human like process. And
Yeah.
when you can talk like pick the brains of the people that are like creating the art that you love, it's like I agree with you 100%. It's one of the most fulfilling aspects of this job.
Yeah, that's I hope people liked it. To the people who read it, thank you so much. And any feedback is great. And play Paranormal Site. If you it won't take much time. I promise you that like it'll get your attention. It'll hook you and have a blast. The less you know, the more you'll get out of it going in. So it's definitely one of the hidden gems of this year.
With that, we'll go on into our news section. I had originally listed this as a main topic because I had seen a news post that Josh Tolentino had put up about a whole bunch of new footage from, at least I thought at the time, new footage from Final Fantasy XVI. Of course, the major release coming out in June. We had the PAX event. We had the big new recent trailers. And Square Enix's Japanese YouTube channel had put up a bunch of different trailers, but they're like 40 seconds to a minute each that are each diving into previously discussed topics such as the Eikon Battles, the summon actions, the abilities that you can pull when controlling Clive, the buddy system, the parties, the story focus mode for those that aren't quite as comfortable with action games. And unfortunately, well, I don't know if unfortunately is the right word, but a lot of this, there's things that you can probably pull out of these trailers for those that are really going through them with a fine-tooth comb. But a lot of it is just kind of distilling down all the individual components that have kind of already been addressed or talked about. So I'm not 100% sure if there's a whole lot we can personally glean out of this, but if you're looking for a more combat, well, maybe not a lot more, just more combat footage with more details about the different actions and abilities that they're comprised of, we got all those trailers kind of synthesized and combined into a single news post up on the site. They are Japanese focused trailers, so the all of the overlay text is in Japanese, but of course you can kind of glean the meaning from the footage as well. We did get another game reveal this week. Let me just go ahead and introduce the byline here because I wasn't expecting this. I don't know if other people like knew about this game from the developers or had any expectation to see this being announced this week, but we got a announcement of the MMORPG Chrono Odyssey from South Korean developer Npixel, and this include a gameplay reveal that is about 4 minutes long, showing a significant amount of gameplay, several dozen new screenshots and artwork. And in general, I went ahead and watched this trailer, and it looks like a really fun...
It's just the next installment in the Chrono series.
Is this a series?
I mean, there's Chrono Trigger.
Yeah. Oh, see, I'm dumb. I feel I'm a little bit right in the face that I missed that. But yeah, this game is called Chrono Odyssey. It's an MMORPG that we just got its gameplay reveal. And the thing is that I'm always kind of itching to see like what the next big MMORPG will be. But when I watched this trailer, and I was actually watching it while Adam was in a Discord channel with me, and I basically said like, yeah, this seems fine. This seems flashy. Music's good. Fantasy setting seems fun. Gameplay looks neat. But then I'm just like, well, Crimson Desert also looked good. And that's kind of AWOL. And then Ashes of Creation has been in development for years and years and years. Like, I'm basically just like, it's hard for me to get super invested or excited knowing that this thing is at minimum like 5 years away.
It's funny you say that because like Crimson Desert like just got a recent update.
Oh, did it? I've been so like under a rock that I thought that one had been kind of gone for a while. What was it?
What happened?
Well, let me just. I just saw people saying that there was some sort of update.
There was an update to Black Desert.
This looks more like Black Desert to me watching the gameplay trailer, except that without the UI.
So, okay, there's an Unreal Engine 5 game, Chrono Odyssey, right?
Yes. Okay. No, the update is that from Pearl Abyss's quarterly earnings, they confirmed that the development is finished and are just ramping up gameplay, like marketing and gameplay demos for this year. So Crimson Desert is probably coming out either this year or very early next year.
Oh, okay. So that kind of undermines my thesis.
Well, I think we'll see, right? We never know. I mean, they're ramping up, but who knows when it actually releases for real.
What's up with like video games loving using the title desert? You know, I hate desert environments. And
so when are we gonna get Chrono Desert? That'll be
I never touched that because that's the least area I'm interested. You know what? I didn't even explore the desert area in Genshin, okay? Because I fucking hate deserts.
I like how we somehow ended up back on Genshin.
Music.
What?
But trying to really wrap this back in, yeah. Chrono Odyssey, it shows a lot of Black Desert vibes, like a lot of monster fights that are very reminiscent of something like Monster Hunter. But all the footage is like gameplay montage, short clips, no UI. Which is, I guess it's not all that. I'm near the end of the trailer. There's more just scene setting and things like that. But it's hard.
How will it run at launch?
Probably not very great. Yeah, but I guess I never stated.
For what it's worth, this game was actually announced a while ago. But as is usual for these games, they're announced, and MMOs just obviously take a hell of a long time to make. So this is finally there. I think it was announced 3 years ago, and this is actually like the first reveal of it.
Yeah, I was my wording was probably not up to par, but I was trying to say like it's the reveal announcement trailer but
Right, exactly.
certain people who might have been following the developer and knew it was under, certain people have been anticipating more than others, depending on whether they followed the
It's kind of
the
funny
initial.
whenever I post about an MMO, especially like a Korean MMO, which there's a lot of them. Like I'm not very much into this scene, so a lot of them are new to me. But every time I post about one, you get a good number of comments from people who are like, "Oh, I've been looking forward to this," or like they're very aware of it. And so there's
Like,
definitely
finally.
yeah, there's definitely segments of people who are like track all these things and they're looking forward to them and trying to find that next big MMO to jump into.
Well, I was wondering, like, how many views are on this trailer? 700,000. So
yeah, a lot. Now we don't have any sort of date or anything. Basically, you just said it's coming to consoles.
They ever say it's like a WoW killer?
I don't think people use that phrasing anymore.
Yeah, every
14
time when
anymore.
there's a new MMO like that, it's like it's the WoW killer.
Well, the WoW killer might have been FF14 at this point.
Well, no, I
Well-
mean the most recent WoW expansion's really well received.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
WoW
know.
seems like it's kind of back on the upswing with a recent couple expansions. So it seems like it's kind of, from an outsider's perspective, like stopped its fall and kind of found a good place again. But yeah, so Chrono Odyssey, we'll follow up if it's this console generation, PS5 and Xbox Series, then maybe I'm being too cynical. Maybe it won't be so long before we see this. So hopefully.
Finally, in the conclusion of the Chrono trilogy.
I was kind of being a bit cheeky about this earlier, but also in late May, we're getting the final piece of gameplay content from Luminous Productions, and that is Forspoken's little add-on, Forspoken and Tanta We Trust, coming out on May 26th or May 23rd if you've got early access, because you have the deluxe edition. This trailer is all gameplay, really no voiceover, no dialogue. And it shows basically, this trailer shows like some actions where you have like an allied assistant and play with the two characters, the two mages. Other than that, I don't really know exactly how this is going to tie into the main game. Obviously, it's going to act as some sort of prequel, but with the timey-wiminess of having Frey there, et cetera, et cetera.
Adam, are you excited?
So when I beat Forspoken, speaking story here, I did feel like there's a pretty significant gap in the storytelling, like that kind of diminished the product. And I think this actually will attempt to fill it. So on that front, it's kind of like of two minds. It's like, well, I wonder what it is, but also it's kind of like, do you put this into a DLC? Okay. As far as gameplay goes, I actually don't really know what to expect. I think that is probably the strongest part of the game, is just like the moment-to-moment combat gameplay. So, if they have like a neat little twist there and it's still fun to play, then maybe it'll be enjoyable. We'll see. I'll play it.
I'll play it just because, like, I kind of want to get my money's worth, sort of thing. But like, Forspoken had some
I spent
decent
$90 on this.
I didn't buy the
game and
deluxe
DLC.
edition. No, I guess I did. Or I need to pay for the DLC separately because I didn't get the deluxe edition. So I won't be playing it until the 26th, I guess. But I just remember,
not
like,
your 3 days early access.
oh no, but the the game spends like 60% of its runtime leading up to the first Tanta, which is the fire one, Scylla, I believe. And then like the other three are like bang, 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 but one of them's friendly, and the other two, like, one's a fight, one's not really a fight. Like the back half of that game just feels like a fever dream. Like I feel like it's building up to Scylla, and then like 6 hours later, you're at the end game. And I feel like that's like what Adam said. Like, did I miss something? I'm confused, but it just feels like the development kind of just fell out from under them a little bit. Not as bad as Final Fantasy 15.
Fantasy. Yeah, I was gonna say the Final Fantasy 15 special.
I mean, it does rhyme a little bit, so maybe this will kind of fill in the gaps, at least to some extent, and see what we think about it in late May. We do have one sales update. Of course, finally, earlier this year, we got the console release of the Final Fantasy Pixel Remasters, the new font, all the other details of those. The Pixel Remaster, across all of its releases, have passed over 2 million worldwide sales.
Only they make more physical copies.
Yeah, the collector's edition.
Well, the 2 million, just obvious. This is obvious, but it's like combined individual sales of every game on Steam, Switch, PlayStation,
And mobile, right?
I guess mobile, yeah, because they're just premium titles on mobile. So
So when you I guess if someone got all 6 re-releases,
counts
that
as
counts as
6.
6 sales.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. I think it's just
Okay.
a combined, like, we've sold 6 million Pixel Remaster games individually.
Okay.
2 million. 2 million of all 6. I might have said 6 million. I didn't mean 6 million.
No, 2 million. And it's one of those things where it's like, well, yeah, 2 million across 6 games across 4 platforms. Is that good or is that bad? Well, I think only Square Enix knows like what their expectations were.
I would hope it's good. I mean, that's a big number either way.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And not every person got all 6 games. Like people, people got the ones that they like.
Well, we learned in our the 35th anniversary poll that we held on the site that we published earlier in the year that Final Fantasy VI especially is the most likely to be someone that would self-identify as their favorite Final Fantasy game that was not their first game. But I think the hipster,
place 6.
but yeah, I do know that there is a vocal, very opinionated, strong-willed population that will say that no,
he just insulted you, James.
I would unfriend you guys if I ever say that your Final Fantasy 3 is your favorite.
That's not okay. I have to assume.
No. I've met some people that said that they preferred Final Fantasy 3 to Final Fantasy 5, and I gotta be honest, I almost reached for that block button.
I have to assume FF3 is a more bearable experience with the Pixel Remaster version than the
It's
original.
much better than the 3D version.
Okay, yeah.
Much better.
So, okay, did they ever port the console features into the PC version?
Not yet.
Nope.
Okay. But they said they're planning on it. It just hasn't happened.
The 4 times EXP and all that stuff, yeah. Or is it
also the sprites are improved too. The sprites are slightly they have better coloring.
Oh fuck. Okay.
I think they updated on Steam too. I might be wrong. Anyways, I know like the console version also has like an EXP or not EXP. Well, it does have EXP toggles, but it also has like an encounter toggle, which can be very useful in places. For example, the Crystal Palace in Final Fantasy 3.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes you just want to turn off encounters. That'd be nice.
I wonder what the speedrunning categories look like for these games now.
It's probably
people just skip the chaos,
boosters,
try to kill them in level 1.
Yeah, because I mean, since all those features are baked into the game now, they should be valid, right? I wonder.
Yeah. I have to imagine there's different categories like no cheats or with cheats.
Oh.
And to wrap up this podcast, we just have a few release dates for mostly some ports. We have Weird West, which released either last year or the year before on PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Will be releasing on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series on May 8th, so within a couple of days of recording this podcast. They're calling it the Definitive Edition, 4K, 60 FPS. I actually did play this game on PC when it came out. To summarize it in just a couple sentences, Weird West, it's an isometric game that takes place in like a fictional, fantastical Wild West, hence Weird West, where you play as 5 different characters in sequence. So it has like this really interesting like narrative idea that's very unorthodox. But I just didn't think it came together in the end. Like the premise was more interesting than the execution. And I do have a review up on the site of the PC version. But interesting game. If you want to try something different that's not like anything else, give it a try on that front alone.
We don't know anything about this Definitive Edition other than it's performs well on new gen consoles.
Yeah, my understanding is that they're calling just the next gen console version the Definitive Edition.
Yeah, and we don't even know for sure if it'll perform well on new consoles, considering what happened with Outer Worlds.
Oh yeah. Apparently the Outer Worlds Definitive Edition is just like
bad.
Like bad and never fixed.
Like they tweaked some like sliders for like lighting and stuff without considering like how it looks in all environments in the game. Like I've seen a lot of screenshots, or not a lot, but a handful of screenshots of like indoor places. The lighting is just all messed up, where like you're talking to a character, shows their face, and they're just like standing in a shadow. Like why are we talking here in the shadow? I don't know. It was not carefully considered, some of the lighting changes they did.
Marvel's Midnight Suns will be launching for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on May 11th, so in about a week from now, alongside, I believe it's the 4th DLC character, Storm. In addition to
Yeah,
Fourth
yeah, that's a
installment,
lot. Yeah, that's the
last DLC.
last one. Yeah.
Mhm. And in addition, this is kind of, I think, all but confirmed before this point, but the game was originally announced for Switch. The Switch version has now been officially canceled. So we'll get it on PS4 and Xbox with the last DLC. And then the game, I think, is basically will be complete at that point. It'll be a full package, gold edition,
Kind
whatever you
of
want to call
maybe
it.
in a similar vein. I know just like last week, Hogwarts Legacy released on last gen consoles,
Hmm.
and it still has a Switch version for the moment.
Like
I
planned,
think
like
people kind
technically.
of expected, like, will that one actually make release? But so far, it still is.
What about Genshin Impact? Wasn't that going to come out for Switch?
Yeah, Genshin Impact had, like, the one tweet saying it was coming to Switch like 3 years ago, and then or 4 years ago. It was a long time.
Adam and I will never forget that because it is like the phantom tweet that like never happened.
I think it's still up. Like, I don't think they ever deleted it. You could find the tweet where they announced it, and that was it's it.
And there was a trailer too, I think.
I think
it
they
was
just gave
a tweet.
because the hardware's too weak.
Well, no,
Holy
but people have like hacked their Switches to run Android, and it can run the game on Android.
Okay, then I don't know what the hell they're doing.
I don't know. Is Honkai coming to Switch eventually?
No, they've only announced PlayStation.
Okay.
They probably already gave up after their Switch hurdles.
I mean, it's just look, they're too visually demanding. Okay, you gotta understand.
Look, if Nintendo can do what they do with Breath of the Wild and Zelda, surely anyone can do anything.
I have a small, tiny little news bit that no one cares about except me. I find it kind of amusing.
Okay.
Our favorite video game publisher, Plaion, is
Hmm.
getting rid of all of its extraneous publishing labels.
Okay.
So there is no more
Adam, remind me. Plaion, I think they went by a different name at one point.
Yeah.
Who are they again?
They were, I think it's Koch Media is how they pronounce it. But they were Koch Media. They changed their name to Plaion, and they had the labels, like their publishing labels, Prime Matter, Deep Silver, and Raven's Court. And they're basically just like, screw it, we're all Plaion now. Everything is Plaion. And even though they've been Plaion for like a year, people still don't know who they are. People might be familiar with like Deep Silver because that's the name they have plastered literally as a publisher, but they're basically the people behind it. And they're also part of the Embracer Group. They're one of those operating entities within that conglomerate. But yeah, I just saw that this was actually a report from gamesindustry.biz where they're basically just saying we're merging all these into one. And I kind of just found it amusing because it's just like, you mean having 5 different names for your company wasn't a good idea?
That's crazy. That's weird. I mean, they gotta consolidate it now because they for a Plaion showcase sounds better than Deep Silver / Prime Matter / whatever / showcase.
Mhm.
You know, for the inevitable. That's weird move. I mean, it's not weird, but I mean, like, it's a weird move that they had it all separate names.
I'm pretty sure, like 2 years ago, whenever it was, when they announced the Prime Matter publishing label, I'm pretty sure we talked about it. Like, why did they announce another label? Like,
Dude,
did they
all I
already have-
remember is like they had like a showcase. Was it last year, or the year before? That like it was just like a showcase that showed no gameplay. I think that
Yeah.
was them.
And I think like Dead Island 2 that just came out is under the Deep Silver name, I think. So like if that had come out next year, it would have been under Plaion, I guess. Whatever. See, this is why it was confusing. It was weird. And like they're finally doing something about it.
Well, I remember in that first Plaion showcase, or was it Deep Silver at the time? I don't remember. They announced like 2 RPGs, Dolmen and The Last Aura Crew.
And they reviewed terribly.
Well, like they just failed to like latch anywhere. And I was like, I feel bad that we never really covered those. Let me pull them up on Steam. And not only are the reviews average, because I don't want to just take that as gospel, but they're just the number of reviews is really small.
The Last Aura Crew currently has a 54 Dolmen has a 54 Metacritic, and The Last Aura Crew has like 50, 53, 57. Those are god awful Metacritic numbers.
Yeah, they are. So
Averaging a 50.
Are they better or worse than Redfall?
I think Redfall's
Worse.
in the 60s, which is not. Oh no, Redfall 59 or 56. That's
on
Oh, it
par.
dropped.
not great.
Okay. I was actually
worse,
like, when I
but-
said that, I was wondering because it's like, well, I've seen footage of people playing Redfall. I don't think that's a 60 Metacritic game. I think that's a 50 Metacritic
I know it was
game.
in the 60s at one point, but it's dropped since then. That's a 60s Metacritic is pretty darn bad. A 50s Metacritic is almost like this is what happened here.
I know originally there was like a few like reviews for the game that said we just don't understand how like Arcane could have made a game this bad, and some people like shit on them, but now it's like more and more reviews are saying the same thing, and it's like, man, what the fuck happened?
And I forget.
That's a big question that everyone's trying to answer this last week.
And I forget like all the different studios within Arcane, but like early May, like it's also like the 6-year anniversary of Prey 2017. And I saw some people being like, "Man, Prey was good. This is the Prey."
Same developers Prey, by the way, that did Redfall.
Yeah, this is Arcane Austin.
Arcane Austin.
Yeah. Arcane Leon did the Dishonored.
Oh wow. Well, maybe just go play Prey if you haven't played it yet. It's pretty good.
Yeah. The state of Microsoft first-party releases is just, what the hell are they even doing?
I mean, they had one hit this year. That was Hi-Fi Rush, right?
So, yeah, that was literally it. That was literally it.
I mean, I guess you're banking on Starfield at this point. Not to be
it is a bad sign when during that kind of funny interview that Phil Spencer did a few days ago, he basically pretty much all but said, "Look, Starfield's not going to be good enough that people sell their PS5s." And it's like, if you're already managing expectations like that, it's like,
yeah,
maybe not a great sign.
It's kind of weird, right? Because now the Starfield developers like doubly feel the pressure on top of the pressure that they already felt, because this feels like, for a lot of people, like one of the big pillars of Microsoft releases this year. Because after Starfield, what else do they got this year?
Yeah, people talk about like, oh well, Halo Infinite. Like some people like Halo Infinite, but it's like undeniable it did not have the impact that it needed.
No.
And little games like Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment can only do so much.
Right.
So
I don't know. It's been a weird week for Microsoft. Really, a lot of soul searching, I guess, this week for them.
So is it like, was it the Blizzard dodge a bullet from not having that merge successfully go through?
I mean, not necessarily, because like right now, what's happening
is like
forced
back into the office.
Yeah, UK has blocked like the merger for Microsoft acquisition for Activision Blizzard, but they're gonna take it to appeals, and that'll be a lengthy process. And even through appeals,
how familiar are you with the appeals process in the UK? Because I've read up a lot about it, and pretty much everyone credible,
it's very minuscule.
Everyone
being successful.
Yeah, everybody I've that I actually can kind of trust their opinions on this have said, look, if the CMA has blocked it, it's basically game over, because the only way that you can appeal is by appealing to another board, which will say, if they figure out, okay, they were irrational when they made their decision, then they just send it back to the CMA again. So it's not a different board making a decision about the CMA's decision. It's sort of just another board saying, okay, yeah, you need to redo the entire process. But if the CMA is already working from the standpoint that they do not want this to go through, they can always just find another reason why they find this shouldn't go through.
Yeah. Like it's not 0%, but it's like you said, it's very unlikely by historical precedent for sure.
To put in perspective, this is what killed the NVIDIA ARM deal.
Yeah. So it's we'll see. That there's all. We'll see. So I don't know. It's a very complicated week for the Xbox division at Microsoft.
So yeah, I don't know exactly how we got onto the Microsoft talk launching from the headline about
reviews. We were talking about, I talked about Plaion for no reason. Then we talked about reviews, and then we talked about Redfall, and we talked about Microsoft.
It's my fault because I mentioned Redfall because I was being cheeky.
Is that better or worse than Redfall?
And then it was very close to Redfall.
Closer than I expected. This AAA Microsoft game reviews just as well as these.
It's possible that that Redfall gets even lower, because there's still reviews for that game coming out.
Yeah, for sure.
I do have one other headline on the docket here. It's another Switch port that I don't think anyone expected. Biomutant, the THQ Nordic game that came out in 2021, will be launching for Switch on November 30th.
Hey, if they get the developers that did the Dying Light port, maybe it'll be a miracle port or something. Who
Maybe.
knows?
I don't know. I haven't thought about Biomutant in at least a year and a half now.
I haven't
Maybe
thought about
more.
it in 2 years, and it came out 2 years ago.
I'm like,
George reviewed it, and George, who was
I
like
miss
the eternal
George.
optimist, was kind of like, "I don't like
Meh.
this game. Is kind of
You know,
crap."
if George doesn't like it, then
Yeah,
It's
if
all
George
good.
doesn't
Is it all?
like it. Oh, no.
Uh,
This also reminds me that so Biomutant was THQ Nordic, right?
Yeah,
Also
yeah.
part of that Embracer conglomerate. That reminds me that they announced Kingdom Come Deliverance for Switch like 2 years ago, and then nothing. It's like,
It got
okay,
Genshined.
yeah.
That game is super CPU bound. I don't think that's ever going to be playable on Switch.
When they announced it, they even basically said that this is the Warhorse Studios people. They basically even said, we didn't really plan on releasing this on Switch, but then we realized it's possible. And I'm wondering if after they announced it, they realized actually this isn't possible.
We realized it's possible, and then silently, oh no.
Oh no, it's not.
Well, if Witcher 3 is possible, I guess that other people were just like, anything's possible. Oh, wait.
Yeah, hey, Doom did it. Witcher 3 did it. We can do anything.
And that wraps up the news slate for this week's Tetracast. So not too much going on, but knowing that obviously the big headline on next week's episode, releasing officially next Friday, will be Tears of the Kingdom. So I know that definitely is going to be our main topic of discussion next week. Other than that, I'm not 100% sure. So we'll just have to see how it shakes out before then.
Also,
releases on
a
Friday,
reminder,
right?
a 1 week reminder for people in the US. I don't know if it's different elsewhere in the world, but Mother's Day weekend next weekend as well, next
Mhm.
Sunday. So don't
So
forget.
do something nice for your mom, and then go hide in your room and go play Zelda.
Yeah.
Or play Zelda with your mom.
Zelda releases on Friday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Nintendo
basically,
releases are on Friday. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
want that OLED Switch so bad, but I just keep thinking that there's a Switch 2 in the corner.
so
Sounds
basically
like
next week's podcast is going to be like, how much sleep did you get last night? No, I was just playing Zelda all night.
I was looking at OLED
I'll
Switch
just-
Zelda, and it's like I could get this, or I can get more gems in Star Rail. You know, how many Star Rail gems is that, Chow?
Different value, okay.
How much is it?
Thing.
Like, is it like $400?
If you switch from Zelda to currency, I think you probably get about
32,000 gems?
I think about 100 rolls. I think just kind of rip off.
This kind of a rip-off.
But hey, what can you do? This is a
Okay,
gacha game.
okay. If let's say these were people, and Zelda OLED Switch was drowning on one side, and then Star Rail Gems was drowning on the other side, which one would you go save?
I would save the Zelda.
You'd say
But
the
I'm
Zelda.
sorry. I'd rather take physical hardware than this, because I would treat the gacha as an adrenaline rush. Like I said that I don't even care about watching video game previews anymore. It's like, in order for me to get excited, it's like getting an SSR in the gacha game nowadays versus like watching a cool ass trailer of some video game. My mind's fucked. I'm sorry, guys.
I don't know.
So
what to say to that.
you're saying you would go save Zelda, but if you saw all the potential SSRs you could get beforehand in those gacha rolls drowning, you would go. If you saw like a certain number of SSRs in that, you would go for that first.
Yes, if I was guaranteed to get 5 SSRs, I would save the drowning SSR dude.
At least he's honest.
If I could get 0, then no, I'd go straight
No,
for Zelda.
Well, I mean, obviously, if you knew exactly what you would get from your gacha pulls, that would probably like instantly deter a lot of spending by everyone.
I'm glad we've established this through this insane analogy.
At least
mean,
it wasn't a food analogy.
But yeah, thank you all so much for listening. We do have those 3 features that we called out up on the site at rpgsite.net. That includes Alex's Street Fighter 6 little RPG adjacent impressions piece of that game's marketing and its demo, and where that game is heading for that audience. Josh Tolentino's Honkai Star Rail initial impressions, and then of course the really cool interview that Adam and Josh were able to put together about Paranomasight, one of the early surprises of the year. You can find RPG Site on all the social media platforms. We're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. You can find our Discord page by hitting the link at the top of our home site or beneath the YouTube video, or at discord.gg/RPG Site. And we will be back next week with another episode of the Tetracast focusing on Zelda and who knows what else. Until you hear from us next time, stay safe and take care. We will talk to you guys later.
Remember, March 7th is Amy the Hedgehog.